Good morning, everyone. Second time for me at FOSDEM, so wow, it's incredible. I've been giving talks for a few years already, but I find you guys you're a tough crowd. So I'm gonna do my best to give you whatever I need to give you today about TypeScript. So my name is Davey. I'm a software engineer, and I love JavaScript. You love JavaScript too, right? If you love JavaScript, you do this. Now look around you. If you hate JavaScript, you do this. Now you can squeeze a little bit the room for the people. Just press them in the middle. Okay, so I have a bold title, so it was a title to get you in the room. So I'm happy that you're all here. Write safer JavaScript. What does that mean, safer? All right, so I'm just quickly gonna go through the agenda. We're just gonna see JavaScript versus TypeScript, getting to love TypeScript, and migrating from JavaScript to TypeScript. But I need to answer this question first. What safer means? Sorry?
Less runtime hours.
Oh, well, undefined is not a function. Say someone?
No bugs.
No bugs. Ooh, I like that. It's very ambitious, man. I like that. Say again?
Easier debugging.
Easier debugging? How many people here in the room do JavaScript, really? Very good. Now keep your hands up. How about TypeScript? Okay, so I don't have to convince you, really. I'm just gonna make sure that at the end of the session, when I say TypeScript, everyone raise their hands and they want to do that every day. So yeah, that's the problem. You know that, right? Cannot read property bar of undefined, or null is not an object, or you're trying to call a function, cannot read property value of undefined. That's really common. Foo is not a function. Cannot read property length of undefined. That's the safer part I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about security and all this stuff. I'm just talking about the fact that you can write code that doesn't crash in production. So that's runtime error, right? So we have two things: runtime errors and compile time errors, right? So while you're writing your code, you'll be able to see this with TypeScript. We'll be able to detect that up front, okay? So JavaScript versus TypeScript. JavaScript is yellow. You know that color, right? That's JavaScript. TypeScript is blue. JavaScript is, whoever is doing JavaScript only in the room is already doing TypeScript. Okay? Because TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. The way I introduce TypeScript to teams that we coach, I tell them TypeScript is a documentation tool. I'm gonna show you why I'm calling it a documentation tool. Yeah, it looks like a programming language, but as you start using it, you're gonna realize that it is more documentation tools than a programming language. So that yellow thing, you already, all of you are doing it, and the blue part is what TypeScript brings on top of the table. So yeah, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. The way it's described on a Microsoft website is JavaScript that scales. Okay? So, small demo time. I'm just gonna take a thing called TypeScript Playground. Okay, so you can follow up. You can follow with me on this one if you want. So it's a small. Can you see this? Let me put it full screen. So let me remove this. So keep in mind that what I'm about to show you is the fact that JavaScript, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. Okay. So in JavaScript we have class. let's say user. As you can see on the left here is TypeScript, on the right is JavaScript. The only difference between the two is just the use strict so far. So we're still in the yellow zone. Everyone, you write TypeScript, you're basically having 101 JavaScript on the other side, okay? That's the yellow zone. And then you want to write, let's say, a variable const user. We're still in the yellow zone, right? So far, so good? So then you will say, what is user? In TypeScript, you can express documentation. You can express that user is a user, is of class type user. Guess what? I'm using type, right? I'm using this to document that line. I'm using that class. I'm using a class. But I'm going to show you in a few seconds that you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't do that. But stay with me for a second. I'm still having a kind of 101, but I don't have this anymore. I don't see this thing here, that typing, documentation. I'm just documenting my code. But look what's going to happen. Here now I'm going to say user has a login, which is a string. By adding login here right away here, this isn't working anymore. On the other side, we still have the same translation, but this isn't working. That won't stop your program to work, but at least you see it right away. That's what we were talking about, compile time. Now, if I want to fix it, I'm just gonna have to add a login here that says Davy. Fix it. We're still in the yellow zone. Now I'm gonna take you to the blue zone, okay? Why aren't you happy? Again? Yeah, it just asked me to give him a default value. That's it. That's what he wants, which is a good thing. Now I'm gonna take you to the blue zone. Instead of using a class, I'm just gonna use an interface. And then I don't need to, if it's an interface, it's a contract. I don't need to initialize that anymore. But look left and right. On the right, I only have the const. And on the left, I have this interface here on the left and only the user translation on the right. See, I use an interface to type my object, but I don't overload the final JavaScript that is rendered. So the only thing I really did right here, I documented this. Documentation. Okay? I'm going to show you another example of documentation that you can do. Is to say, I want the user to go toward a certain direction. Okay? So, right away, you can see that he's not happy because you just had a property like you will do in JavaScript. Let me just add that property quickly. Oh, well, the property you just had has an impact all the way in the chain because people are using or they don't expect that property, but you just had that and then in production, boom, direction of whatever is undefined, okay? But I want that direction here to come from an enum. Or I can say enumeration, let's say direction, okay? So as you can see here, I had an enumeration, and then right away, I have this magic happening here, this line. And then I will just add left, and then right, for example, okay? So yeah, there is a 101 translation from enum to something that looks like this. If you don't understand that part of the code, it's okay. It's just they're using some closure to create a variable and then they encapsulate the entire thing and then that gives you a way to to assign a left and right property on an object dynamically. So now here I can say this thing is a direction dot, let's say left, but I'm still having a problem here. So what I'm gonna do, just to add a direction property, and then say this one is a direction, is of type direction, okay? It's just an enum. It's documentation. Here I'm expressing the fact that you can go left and right. I could have used an object, const object direction, and then left and right. That will have yield the same result. But see how you can make it much more appealing here. Just gonna say const. You see what happened there? It's all disappeared. There is no more overload of JavaScript that you're gonna give to your customer, because that's the part your customer will use in their app, in the final app they run. But you, in your code, you express something to make the work of your team easier. That's the message I want to pass here, the fact that TypeScript is documentation. We good so far? So, let me quickly go back here. So, getting to law of TypeScript. I'm gonna take something quickly here for you. So, I have this function, set value. When I say set value, I'm gonna receive this value, and I say if value, var, real value, and then value here. So if I call it, can you all see this? You good? If I call set value, and I do this, and then I say set value to be, yeah, here I actually need to say this and then this. That will probably be much realistic. And then here I say Davy, and then here I say number 12. Guess what is happening here? What do you think is going to be yield here on line 9? Yeah. There is so yeah. That doesn't work. That won't work. Yeah. So see, now we're already talking about the fact that hoisting is going to be into play here. It's going to enter into play here, right? So there is already kind of understanding JavaScript, but as well understanding the fact that are we going to enter here? Is this code is written in a sense like this can enter here? First line, 9. Is it going to enter here? No. And then the two other cases will enter, but regardless, we're going to have undefined here, and then Davy, and then 12. Okay? But that, I'm going to have to open the code source and then start making sense of what you're trying to do. I can make it much easier by saying value could be either a string or number. See, by doing those, these two already are solved. But how about this part? I can communicate via documentation that this part is sometime optional. I'm just documenting my code. That's all I'm doing. Okay? So once you reach that part, there's some magic that's going to happen here. And then, yeah, you can use a good let here that will make your life much easier. But if you do so, you see the scope going to enter in play. And that's not TypeScript. That is just raw JavaScript. So let me just move it here. Then it doesn't crash. And then I can set the value right here. Okay? Now, it's not over, because I still need to do something that looks like, what is the possible return value Because if you give me a string or number, I can also have as return value a string and a number. I'm just expressing what my code is supposed to do. But here is the thing, the day I discovered what I'm about to show you, I discovered that in TypeScript and I was like, there is no way I'm doing JavaScript again. I'm gonna show you that line of code. I was here and I said value dot. Because I already said string or number, when I say value dot, I only get to string or value, right? But then one step further, I realized that if I have an if condition like this one, and I can say type of value is equal, let's say, string. Now inside here, when I say value dot, that at this moment, my brain just did, there is no way you're not doing TypeScript in your life. Just that. Because just with that, all the screen that's shown you, function doesn't exist and whatever, disappeared entirely. Yeah, some cases won't work entirely, but this gives you what I'm trying to show you, okay? So I can go much further. I'm happy to talk about it right after. So what I'm saying here, TypeScript is a documentation tool. It is a documentation tool. So the next question will be, if you have a huge JavaScript project, how can you go from JavaScript to TypeScript? There are 3 steps. 3. The first one is super easy. Just make it work. You know what I mean here? You generate a tsconfig file, tsconfig, which is a TypeScript configuration. And then you add set implicit any, which is just a property in your tsconfig. You just put it at false. What does that mean? It means any JavaScript, it just makes sure that you're still in the yellow zone, right? That's it. That's all it does. It doesn't yell at you, but TypeScript is already there. So you're still in your JavaScript project, not TypeScript. TypeScript is just behind, watching everything at first. Then you rename all your JS file to TS or TSX if you're using React and then Preact and all these tools. That's it. Don't force that onto your team. Just do this. They won't see it. Yeah, they will see the TS thing, right? But for them, that won't really change in terms of the code they write every day, right? That's one step. Second one, now be explicit. Don't turn the any to, instead of false, put it at true. You know what's going to happen? It will just put some red line between the things that don't have types. That's it. That's all it's going to do. Everything is still okay. Right? You can put that on your team. They'll be okay. They will just be like, we have new red flags. What is happening here? Then you tell them, let's just take all the types, the common types. Like if you're on a Node project, just do npm install @type node. Just do that. This is a common type. They're all known. Once they're in your project, most of the red thing will just vanish because it will recognize that node typing or it's there. That's it. Well, don't do that in 2 days. Just you do the first step, then you wait 3 months, then you do this part, okay? And then you add typing for third-party tools. Like a library you're using and stuff like that, you add typing for that, okay? Now, that part, you should leave that for a few months. I'm not kidding, because the third part is where you get into war. The third part is be strict. Means that you just go in the the TypeScript config file, and then you put strict to true. So what does that mean? It means that your project isn't working anymore. It just means that now you're going to have to type everything. You're going to have to express every single line of code in your application. That's what it means. Okay? I have a repo for you. I have a repo for you where I have those 3 steps. It's in the resource part. And you can just take the 3 steps. Okay? With that, I hope that you'll be able to play with TypeScript a little bit more. I'm going to be outside answering questions. If you want to drink TypeScript, I'll be here. If you want to think TypeScript with React, I'm going to help. TypeScript with Vue.js, I'm going to help. I know those things. TypeScript with Angular, I'm not going to help because it's already there. So just go and do it. And voila, questions? One question over there.
There's always someone at the back of the room. Who had the question?
Hi. Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
I would like to know, there is a lot of libraries that don't have types for TypeScript. So I would like to know how you can generate this. Or
Yeah, so you have tools that can basically scan those library and then generate typing for them. That's going to facilitate the work. But you have on GitHub, there is a GitHub repo and define type, something like that, where you're going to mostly find whatever you need. In 2012, 13, 14, TypeScript was a nightmare. Guess what? Today, it's top of the game, on top of the game, literally. From the React team to the Vue team, they all use that to write safer code today. But you have tools that can generate types for you.
Don't be
All
shy.
questions?
It's recorded, but we don't know your name, just your voice.
I forget.
So
Yeah.
exit is this way if you are in rush.
Thank you, people.